Good morning, everybody. Very warm welcome to you all. My name is Ali Board, and you might be watching this broadcast in one of three ways. This is Technique Tuesday. This is something that I try to do most Tuesdays of the year, where I bring to you my latest inspiration or a project that I'm working on. And like I say, you might be accessing this broadcast in three different ways if you are watching me live. So it is Tuesday the 5th of October, I had to check, at a minute past 10 in the morning. If you're watching live on Facebook, then you are one of my Learning to Paint with Alison Seaboard group members. There's quite a few of us now, so thank you very much for joining the group. You're very welcome. If you're watching this one of the other ways, you might want to nip over to Facebook and be part of that group. You might be watching this on YouTube. I do tend to archive these broadcasts on YouTube, so please do go and find my channel Alison Seaboard and subscribe, because then you'll get notifications of whenever I post a new video. Or you might be watching this on catch up via my Technique Tuesday blog on my website www.learningtopaint.co.uk, in which case you are in exactly the right place for all of the information. Now, because we broadcast this live, what we get on Facebook is we get people who are in the virtual room, and people like to pop up and say hello. So if this is your first time with us this morning, don't be afraid. We're very, very friendly and welcoming bunch. Pop your name up, say where you're watching from, and if I see you pop up, I will try to say hello. Now, every week we have a competition to see who can be the first person to post, and it is often won by this lady, because she always pops up and brightens my day when I see her comments come in, and that is the lovely Martina. Good morning, Martina. Now, there's lots of other people in the room as well. Who else have we got today? We've got Maureen, we've got Rosie over in France. Good morning. We've got Alison WT, who is saying morning, party girl. I don't know what she's referring to at all. Linda D, good morning. Anne is saying that she's sorry, I'm going to get you on catch up as visiting my daughter. Go, Anne, go visit your daughter. Far more important. Joe, good morning. Dee, one of the admins for the Learning to Paint page. Good morning, lovely. She is in the room. Lynn, good morning. Pam. My mum is in the room as well. Good morning, mum. That is Liz to the rest of you. You don't have to call her mum. Who else have we got? Ruth, good morning. She is saying that it's lovely and sunny at the moment. Good, because it's miserable and horrible down here in Dorset. So long may you say... lost the plot already. Long may you welcome the sunshine, Ruth. Who else have we got? Lots of people saying good morning to my mum. And Jane, good morning from Lancashire. It's very lovely to have you all here. Thank you very much for taking the time to tune in. Now, what is Technique Tuesday? If this is your first time, like I say, it is a time and a place where I try to share my inspiration. Technique Tuesday has evolved over the last almost 18 months now, where I used to share with you a tutorial of some sort. Now my aim is to make you a much more self-sufficient creative. How do I do that? What I try to do is share a project with you to fire those creative processes, to make you more self-sufficient, to think about the projects that you've got on the go, and maybe some of the things that I am doing in my own work can be triggers for a way of thinking. I try to say everything out loud. I try to share all my inspiration. And last week we started a brand spanking new project. Now, I've called this one Artistic Intuition because I don't know where this is going. I started with some poetry last week, so if you missed last week's poetry, I'm not going to go back over it in huge amounts of detail. You need to go back over to the blog. There is a link in the Facebook broadcast, and I will share links throughout. I will even show you at the end of this broadcast where you can find the blog if you are watching either on Facebook or YouTube. But you need to go over to the website, find the Technique Tuesday blog, and you will see the post there where I talk about found poetry, and I put a found poem together. Just want to say a few good mornings to those people who have just popped up on Facebook. Molly, good morning. Now Ruth is saying she's not far from me, but she's got sunshine. I'll send it across, would you? send it across. People saying hello to my mum and vice versa. My mum is waving virtually at people. And Lynn, who is over in the States, is saying good morning to everybody around the world. Lovely to have you here. It's quite a group of you this morning. So let's take you to the overhead camera where you can see a couple of things that last week's found poem and now maybe something that you think, hang on a minute, what's she got going on here? Good morning, Ali D. Good morning, Jilly. Now, here is the found poem that I worked on last week. Like I said, if you want to understand how I created this and why I created this, then you need to pop back over to the blog to see how I put this together. Now, this was created from lines of a different poem, from a William Brown poem, and I stuck them in here last week. I think it was the lovely Chris who said that it was now forming a memory card, and yes, I got it out again yesterday when I was prepping for today's broadcast, and there it is, the text that I used as the inspiration for my painting. I don't know where this is going. I don't know how it's going to manifest itself. I'm using all of my artistic intuition in interpreting it, but there it is. We're going to come back to that later. Now, Lynn has recognised that I have a disco ball here. Yes, I do have a disco ball, sometimes also known as a mirror ball. Now, one of the sources of inspiration for this last week was the fact that I'm not going to say I went on tour with the band Elbow, but I certainly followed them around the country for a good 10 days. They were my inspiration for creating this poem. Now, lots of people are thinking that the significance of this is because I'm going to dance for you. It's really not. If you are an Elbow fan, you will understand the significance of this mirror ball. But I want to tell you the story about this mirror ball. So I had one of these hanging in my house. It was a whole one, but when I went away, it decided to throw itself down from the ceiling from where it was, and it's fractured in two. So I now have two halves of a mirror ball. But what I also have is the opportunity. Who else haven't I said hello to? Morning, Kathy. Morning, Matter. Lots of people popping up. Hello to all of you. What I now have is the opportunity to do something with this. Don't worry, Elbow fans. I have ordered myself a new mirror ball. But I wanted to use this. I might decide to plant this in the garden. But what happened was that a few of the little glass tessera, these little glass mosaic tiles, have fallen off, as you can see. It's like an egg cracked in two. Now, because this is a massive significance to Elbow fans out there, and I'll let you go and discover why this is of significance to Elbow fans, and because of the poem that I was using, I thought, why not try to incorporate some of these glass tiles? Oh, Pam is saying, I thought you were going to announce you're going to be in the next series of Strictly. Oh, if only. If only. Can you imagine me on Strictly? Oh, it'd be carnage, wouldn't it? So I've got a few of these little glass tiles, which I thought I would incorporate somewhere in my project. I don't know where or how I'm going to incorporate them. I've got my text, and if you were tuning in last week, you will also know that I kind of decided that I was going to use a canvas. Now, this is a chunky canvas because I have every intention of using this as my substrate, as the thing that I am going to paint on. I don't know why. I just fancied it. This is one of those artistic intuition moments where I've gone, do you know what? I fancy doing this. All right. It's just one of those things. I fancy working in acrylics. I haven't worked in acrylics for ages. I fancy doing it on this chunky canvas. It's 12 by 12 inches. It's trying to get in the frame. It's almost in the frame, but it'll do for today. And I've got my text. I've got my little glass tiles. I'm just seeing some of the hilarious comments come in on Facebook about Elbow and D. You have just made me chuckle out loud. Morning, Thyra. So what I've done is I've collected together a few bits of stuff And what I'm going to do is, I promise you, I haven't planned this. I haven't decided what I'm going to do. I haven't planned it out. I've got no kind of secret little sketch to one side where I'm putting it together. What I've got is some stuff, and then I'm going to apply it, and then I'm going to see what I've got. So what stuff have I got? I've got my poem. I've got my little mosaic tiles there. Don't know what I'm going to do with those. Now, I have one of my tickets that I had for one of the gigs that I went to. This was when I went to see them. This was my home gig. This was Bournemouth. I don't know if I'm going to use this yet. I just sort of got it out as a bit of ephemera, as a bit of collage material. I've got lots of these tickets, so I'm not sort of wasting it for my collection, for those elbow fans out there that are slightly horrified that I'm going to stick it in a painting. So I've got that. Not sure about that. Yes, yeah, lots of people going, ooh, collage time. What else have I got? Excuse me, cough hasn't gone away. What I also have are some stencils, okay? I'm a big fan of the stencil. And I use them an awful lot in work for lifting out. If any of you have got my book, then you will know that I use stencils an awful lot for lifting out colour. And I have a bee stencil here. You can see I've used it rather a lot around my house and on various projects. Again, not sure if I'm going to use that yet or not, but I have it. The bee emblem is very important to me. It is in my found poem about the king of bees. For those of you that know me well, know that bees is my husband's nickname. And for those of you who are elbow fans in the room, you will know that the bee has huge amounts of significance in terms of the band and as being a representation of Manchester, where the band are from. And it's a bit of a pilgrimage for me whenever I return to Manchester in my kind of friend history. So I've got that. What else have I got? I've got some other stencils in here too. Now, I know that the next question is going to be, yes, Ali, that's wonderful, but where do I get the stencils from? Now, I can tell you that if you go over to the Technique Tuesday blog, I have included lots of links to these materials this week, so that you can go and find them. Now, I do need to make you aware that I am part of an affiliate link. What does that mean? It means that I put links to certain products on my website, and as part of that, I get a little bit of money back. If you click on one of those links and you end up buying something, I get a little bit of a payback for that. There's nothing underhand about it. I'm making that very plain to you. What it does is put a bit of money in the coffee jar, and it means that these Technique Tuesday broadcasts are starting to be funded because I don't get paid for these. So if you can do that and click on those links, that would be very welcome. I've put a link to these mandala stencils on my Technique Tuesday blog. The blog is already live, so you can hop over there. Don't go yet, I'm still here. And you can see those stencils and where I purchased them from. I've picked that one out completely at random, but you can see there's lots of different ones in my pack. I didn't choose this one. I didn't agonize over it for hours. I just quite like it. I don't really know how I'm going to use it yet. That's again another one of those things where I've gone, ooh, fancy using that. All right, it's just one of them things. So I've got one of those as well. And then in terms of materials, I've got a bit of watercolor ground. Why have I got watercolor ground? I've got it because I think I might, I don't know, but hi Pen, hi Hilary P. I think I might want to use some watercolors on this canvas. Watercolor in this in the state that this canvas is in, it would get repelled because this has got gesso on it. So I need to possibly put something down where the watercolor is going to be accepted. So I've got that. I'm not sure if I'm going to use that yet. I've also got a little bit of extra gesso. And again, the links to these are on that blog post if you want to go and find out where to find them. The canvas link is on there. The gesso is on there, the watercolour ground is on there, all of those types of things. And I'm just going to kind of use these possibly as a bit of texture. I'm not quite sure how they're going to manifest themselves yet, but they're there. You'll have to excuse my cough, I haven't got rid of it yet. I've got a palette knife. I've got a nice stiff way. This is a varnishing brush, but it is the brush I tend to use for applying different textures and all of those kind of things. So I've got those there too. I've got a disposable palette, just in case. A lot of these things are just in case. I've got a pot of water, and I've also got these alphabet stamps. Now, you may remember, of course, that the starting point for this is my found poem. So I've got these alphabet stamps in case I want to put any text or lettering on my canvas when I start applying my textures. I don't know, but what we can't do during a live broadcast is wait for me to toddle off around the studio, finding all the things that I need. So I've kind of got them all around me. Now, why have I got two sets? I've got two sets for a very good reason, okay? Here's set number 1. Here is set number 2. Very different looking. So these are what we call the right way up. So it's the wooden block and it's letter down in there, and this is them upside down. Now I've got two blocks for two sets for two reasons, and that is I took these to a workshop a couple of months ago and realised when I came home that I had lost a couple of the letters, so it's not a complete set. This is a complete set. Now, why have I bothered to go out and get two? Because the argument is, well, you know, just live with the fact that you're a few letters missing. I mean, there's a metaphor right there. A few letters short of an alphabet set. That's me all over. But it also occurred to me that I could use these for my rather fine stamping that I do. So when I use ink and I want real kind of precision, and I could use these for kind of more messy play. All right, because then it really doesn't matter if these get damaged or dirty. And so I've got the two sets going on. Now, I don't expect you to have two sets. It is perfectly possible to wash these. But as I had to get a new set anyway, because I'd lost a couple of letters, then I have the two there. The link to these on Amazon is also on the Technique Tuesday blog over on my website. So go over to the website. I will show you at the end of this broadcast where you can find it. So I'm going to put the decent set away. Of course, I can't get the lid back on because this is live broadcasting, of course. And I have the playtime set, we'll call it, here with letters and numbers, and they're not in the right order. So, you know, we'll live with that over there. And like I said to you, I don't want you to be under any illusion that I know where it is I'm going with this. I don't. I have my found poem. I have a load of stuff around me at my disposal. And I'm just going to get playing and we'll see where it goes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start attacking my canvas with my palette knife. I'm going to add some layers of texture. I might embed the tessera in there. I might use the stencils. I might use some of the grounds. I just don't know. Instinctively, I'm telling myself that I need to start with the watercolor ground and my palette knife. So this is the Daniel Smith watercolor ground. There are lots of others on the market. I just particularly like the Daniel Smith one. Sorry, the light is bleaching that out a little bit. We have to light the canvas quite dramatically so that you can see it easily. But that doesn't help when you're trying to look in the pot like there. Okay, there you can also get a QOR, a golden watercolor ground. You can also get a Schminker watercolor ground. I just like the Daniel Smith one. And the link to it on the SAA is over on the blog page. So I'm going to start with palette knife. I'm going to load it from the pot. I'm not going to be mean with it. I'm going to kind of crack on with it and get some onto the canvas. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to knock that light out. There we go. Let's take the light off temporarily so that you can see a little more easily what it is that I'm doing. I'm also going to make, just bear with me 1 second, just to prove that this is a live broadcast. I'm just going to sort out the brightness of this ever so slightly. There we go. So you can see it a little bit better. If I put that light back on again, yes. We've got some shadows being cast, but at least you can see the watercolor ground being applied, can't you? I got a bit of hard stuff in there, so let's fish that out. And let's push this watercolor ground right to the edges of our canvas. A bit as if we're kind of grouting or plastering our canvas, if you would like. So carrying on. Now I understand as well, this isn't for the faint-hearted because watercolour ground is not cheap. If you want to know what you could use instead of watercolour ground, there are 2 or 3 videos on YouTube where people share their recipes for how to create an alternative to watercolour ground. I'm not entirely convinced that it's any cheaper than buying a pot, but that's what the Hive Mind is for over on Facebook. You can share your experiences of using alternatives to watercolour ground if you fancy doing so. So I'm just kind of plastering my way around, really. I really don't know what I'm doing. I've already got watercolour ground on my trousers. Oh dear, such a messy pup. Let's get some more up here in the top right hand corner. And then what I might do is switch to gesso. Why have I decided to switch to gesso? The answer to that is I don't know. I don't know why I've decided to switch to gesso. I just have, all right? Sometimes you really don't have any rhyme nor reason to these decisions. You're just kind of going with the flow. I'm just peeling off the dried gesso from there. Now, this is the Pebeo gesso. I particularly like this one. One of the reasons being that I can squeeze it directly onto my canvas if I want to. And then let's smooth that out. Now, what's going to happen if watercolour hits the gesso? I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's going to slightly repel the watercolour. But maybe that's the bit I use acrylic on. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Ruth is asking a very, very pertinent question. If you're using acrylic, will it work on watercolour ground? Yes, it will. What I'm trying to do is leave my options slightly open. I don't know, you can just about see the difference between the watercolour ground and the gesso there. The gesso is slightly whiter than the watercolour ground. Now, typical of me, I've sort of got bored with doing that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take one of my stencils and I'm going to, shall I do it that way or shall I do a little bit of it? I think this sort of looks like the mirror ball. It's got these kind of radiating lines of light coming out of it. It would be a bit obvious to stick it on there like that. So let's go for the not obvious and let's get it in the top right hand corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the stencil down. It's sticking to the gesso and things that I've put down, and I'm going to use my palette knife to push some of that extra. Actually, we could pick some of it off from over here and push it into that stencil. Let's see what happens. Have I tried this before? No, I really haven't. I have no idea how this is going to manifest itself, but that is half of the fun. Then if we peel this away, what do we get? We get a rather interesting pattern going on. Is it picture perfect? No, it's not picture perfect at all. Do I want it picture perfect? Excuse me. Of course I don't. What I am going to do is slightly choke to death. But that's all right. You didn't need to hear me speaking, did you? Now, ordinarily, you would need to wash that straight away under the tap. But I'm not going to rush off and do that. Look at that. Someone was commenting on my nails. They're going to get covered in gesso in a minute. My manicurist will start crying. What I am going to do is use that gesso and watercolour ground that I've got to transfer that pattern elsewhere. So let's overlay it a little bit. Let's kind of go for 2/3. Is that going to interfere with what I've just done? Yes, it is going to interfere with what I've just done. Am I bothered? No, of course I'm not. We're going with some artistic intuition. We're playing. We're creating textures. We're doing stuff. I quite like that. Look at that with that lovely sticky pattern. Now, like I say, what you could do, of course, is transfer this to a piece of watercolour paper if you wanted to get some other interesting patterns. Oh, I know what I can do. Have I got it near me? Madly looking around for it. 2 seconds. Oh, I know what I can do. I know what I can do. Improvisation. Just going to put that to one side temporarily. And then I'm going to get my disposable palette in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlay what's left of this on top of my found poem. Here we go. I had absolutely no idea that this was going to be a thing, but I'm going to overlay it on top of my found poem. I'm going to push it down very lightly with my fingers on top of that cardi paper that we were talking about last week. Let's just give that a bit of a burnish. Got all sorts of things going on underneath that. And let's peel it away. Oh, we've got some interesting patterns coming out. So there we go. That's a real kind of playtime effort there, isn't it? I might do something with that. I might not. I don't know what it is. What it has done is kind of knocked back some of the text, which is interesting. So I'm going to put that, actually what I'm going to do is put that on the floor next to my chair. It can join the mirror ball down there. Now, let's put this back to one side and let's bring our canvas back into shot. There it is. So I know that when I put some paint, maybe watercolor, a bit of ink, maybe a bit of acrylic, who knows what I'm going to do with this. I know that this is going to create a texture, it's going to interfere, it's going to do all sorts of things, but I think this is a prime candidate for starting to introduce the odd bee or two. I haven't used this, I've sort of bypassed this. That can just go into the collection, I think. Now let's get the watercolour ground back in again. What's Ali D saying? Ali D is saying, you never cease to amaze me how your brain copes with all these ideas buzzing around. Yeah, I mean, it explains a lot, doesn't it, Ali? Now, I've had a fly decide to fly its way into my watercolour ground. Sorry, fly, you're going to be part of the collage now. Let's pick up a bit of that watercolour ground. That's maybe a little bit too much. And go back to our bees. Now I need to lay this down quite lightly because the colour underneath is particularly wet. Ooh, let's lay that down really, really gently. And let's push some of this watercolour ground through that bee texture. Let's see what we've got. Oh, look at that. I'm liking that rather a lot. I mean, to the point where there's probably going to be quite a lot of these going on now because that was too much fun. Let's get another one going down here. Let's lift that off. Got one there. Even number, can't possibly have that. So let's go for a third one. Let's go for a third one up here. Probably need to put a little bit more watercolour ground on my palette knife. Oh, that's slightly out of shot. Sorry, folks. And let's push some of that watercolour ground, a bit more on the knife alley, through our stencil, and let's see how that comes out. Yes, so I've got a third one going on, liking that a lot. Again, you really need to wash that straight away. It's just going to go on the floor for the time being. I'll worry about that when the broadcast is over. Now, I definitely need to include these somewhere. I could excuse me, embed these in the watercolour ground or the gesso, but I don't think that's going to be strong enough to hold them. Oh, Anita, good morning. The fantastically talented Anita Pounder is in the virtual room. Thank you so much for joining us, Anita. I'm going to embed these, but I think it's going to require a little bit of slightly stronger glue to embed them. Palette and too many things in my hand this morning. Now, I've got 6 here. For those of you that know me, that's the sort of thing that makes my head hurt because I like odd numbers. So one of those is going, so I've got 5. I think I'm going to put that in the top left-hand corner. So let's pull that down a little bit. Let's pull that down a little bit and then get a little bit of the spirit glue on the back, good old Yoo-hoo glue. If you're in the States or somewhere else, I'm pretty sure that this is available, but any kind of strong adhesive. You could do it with super glue, and I did look at using super glue, but considering how messy I get, I didn't think that was a good idea to start super gluing my fingers in a live broadcast. So let's get that set up in there. Yeah, that'll be all right. And then I've got another strip here. What have I got? 2, 4, 6. Oh, what's the matter with me? 8 of those. Well, that's not a thing, is it? Why is that not sticking down flat? It's not sticking down flat because it's still got a piece of polystyrene on it. Never mind. So take one of those off, and I think down here is going to be the name of the game. Now there's actually no texture down there, so this should stick down a lot more easily. So let's be generous with our spirit glue on the back of that. It's quite stringy, this spirit glue, and we'll stick that in that bottom right hand corner. Am I going to like these? Who knows? Who knows if I'm going to like these? It's just a thing, okay? And then because obviously that's a one thing and a two thing, I need a third thing. So let's stick one somewhere, maybe down here in that bottom left hand corner. I know some of you are painting along this morning, and Pen, who is alive in the room, has just said she's just put a paintbrush in her coffee. Yeah, I do. I have learnt, Pen, that painting and drinking, in the best sense of the word, don't mix. So I tend not to have my coffee cup anywhere near my painting area, except if you want a nice coffee stain, of course. So I've got those mosaic tessera in. What I'm going to do is give those a little bit of a blast with the heat gun, because there's something else I want to do with those in just a second. Right, let's get the heat gun on. Just excuse me 10 seconds while I do this. I'm going to try and zoom this top camera out as well. Let's just go a bit further. There we go. That's better. You can see all the canvas now. Right, going for the drying. So hopefully you should be able to hear me over the top of the heat gun. I don't want to make this too hot. I certainly don't want to dry all of my textures just yet, because there's something else I want to do with them, I think. But I want the glue to start to activate on these tessera, because I don't really want them to move in a second. So let's get these. Are they sticking? Come on, stick. Be helpful this morning. Now, what I can tell you, whilst this is drying, is that there's no Technique Tuesday next week. I am sorry about that, but it's because there's two very special classes going on next week. And if you want to know what they are, you need to stick around until the end of the broadcast, when I'm going to share the details of them. So I'm doing you an extra long Technique Tuesday this week, so you've got plenty to keep you occupied. That's enough of that. You didn't come here to watch paint dry, did you? So, okay, they're not super stuck, but they'll do. And then I'm going to go back to the palette knife. Now, do I want to use watercolour ground for this, or do I want to use gesso for this? I think I want to use watercolour ground for this. I don't know why. It's just an intuition thing. Annoying, isn't it? And what I want to do is to build up some watercolour ground kind of next to these mirror sections, so that they're a little bit more integrated, so that there's a bit of colour kind of coming off either side of them. I might want to do more with that. I'm not entirely sure. I do definitely want these to be I'm sort of grouting these in, aren't I? I mean, that is quite funny. Let's get them kind of popping through up here. They're quite sharp as well, so I don't really want to cut myself on them when I start painting. This is going to take an eon to dry, so it's probably a good thing that we've got no Technique Tuesday next week, because it's going to take ages for this kind of thickness of media to dry. I'm cleaning them off so I get this kind of glint. I know some of you absolutely hate getting your fingers dirty. I do understand that. That's not a thing for me. My mum is in the room. She'll tell you of my love of making mud pies when I was a kid. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if you do have a bit of an aversion to getting mucky, then just a pair of plastic gloves will do the trick. So let's bring some of that texture. Oh, what's that lurking in my watercolour ground? Don't need that. Let's get these on down here. And then, oh, dog hair. And then let's get this one in the bottom right hand corner nicely kind of set and grouted in. So this is looking better, kind of it's starting to integrate. It's going to be very abstract, but it's more about inspiration and a thought process than anything else. So we'll get those in, maybe a little bit more of that perhaps. Yes, Ali D is saying in the virtual room that I read her mind, and that's because I know she doesn't like to get her hands filthy. I hadn't really realised until I started teaching that that was a thing. I've kind of always assumed that people want to get in as big a mess as I get. But I understand, it's all good. So let's get those grouted in that bottom corner. Right, one more process to go, I think. I'm liking the way this is starting to dry. It's kind of appearing and disappearing. I'm liking the bees. Who knows, by the time I start painting, it might turn into something different. I just don't know. Let's clean off my palette knife on the edge of that canvas and get the edges kind of tidied up a little bit. I could put some texture on the sides of my box canvas as well, but I'm not going to, just because. Now, all sorts going on. Now, what else is it that I'm going to do? I want to return to this text, to this found poem that I had, because I said last week that the collage that I did in terms of this found poetry wasn't necessarily going to manifest itself as collage in my final piece. Now, this was something that I thought about, but obviously I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. There are other things that might happen along the way. I do particularly like this first line, A Concert of Birds. This was the title of the poem, which I appropriated for my found poem. And also, if you are an Elbow fan, you will know the significance of the bird imagery too. So let's go over to my letter stamps. So this is a bit of the process that takes a little while. So I'm going to lift this up so that you can see the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to use my stamp, and I'm going to stamp into my wet textures. Now what I have got is we still have close-up cam. So let's get close-up cam into play so that you can see where I've just stamped this. So here it is, that letter A down there. So it's like a little bit of a recess. I'm hoping that the paint will fall into it when I do more work with it. Ooh, apologies for knocking the camera. Let's get the letter C. So I've got my letter C, and I'm going to push that into the wet paint. It's not going to be stunningly clear, especially as my camera has just decided to go out of focus. Thank you very much. But there you go. You've got that letter C in there. So I'm pushing those letters into the wet textures. So I've got A, C, you can see they get very mucky. Let's go for O, C, O in there. Oh, I could transfer some of that somewhere else as well, couldn't I? I don't know if this is going to work, and it might not do, but I'm having fun experimenting. There goes an N. Oh, that's a good one. Like that one a lot. This is all higgledy-piggledy lettering. Perhaps it was the letter C that I was missing because I can't find it. No, it's not. Here's the letter C. C E R T. You get the gist of what I'm doing anyway. I'm probably going to do this after the broadcast so that you're not sitting here watching the ramblings of a mad woman as she stamps letters into that surface. So just to have a recap, okay, I had my blank canvas, I had my found piece of poetry, I had my circle, my mandala stencils, I had some watercolour ground and some gesso. which I equally pushed the stencils into, and I used to force back through my stencils as well. I had my mirror ball, I had my mosaic tessera, which I have stuck back onto my surface and I have grouted in. Probably after the broadcast, I'm going to do a little bit more work with these letter stamps as well. But as you can see, that was something that developed as I worked through the process. I had things kind of around me to experiment with. I don't know how this is going to dry. I don't know if it's going to need another layer. I don't know how it's going to react with the paint. I don't know how crisp some of these things are going to be. But what I do definitely need to do is to allow this to dry now, and it needs to dry completely. This is going to take at least 24, if not 48, if not 72 hours to dry completely so that I can work back into it. But luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, there is sadly no Technique Tuesday next week because I have some exciting things to share with you. Now, don't disappear on me. I have some exciting things to share with you. Next week, the reason that there is no Technique Tuesday is because I'm off on my travels again. Not for necessarily fun, and by that I mean not because I'm following Elbow around the country anymore, but fun in terms of next week I'm working almost the whole week with the SAA. Now, in case you don't know about the SAA, go over to the blog. There's a link there for membership. But I have 2 workshops coming up. The first one is a bee and foxglove workshop. This is going to be live streamed on the SAA's website. You do need to be a member to see it. And there is a link there, but it's quite a long link. So the easiest thing to do is to Google SAA bee and foxglove. And then what happens is you can watch the broadcast live. You can follow along live as well. The equipment is all there. When you log in as a member, you'll see the equipment list. You will see the resources there. And in the background, you will see very faint in this advert, you will see the painting that we're doing. A foxglove flower. Oh, that's hard to say. Foxglove flower. And a little bee portrait. So our bee theme is continuing. That is Wednesday the 13th of October. More information is available on their website. Now, the other very exciting thing that I am doing next Friday, are you somewhere in the vicinity of Nottingham? Would you like to join me for a very exclusive face-to-face workshop? I'm going to be in Nottingham. I'm going to be doing the painting that you see in the background of this advert, Field of Gold. If you Google SAA AOY, it's part of the Artist of the Year exhibition in Nottingham. Workshop day. You can join me for a very reduced fee. It's only £30 to take part, which is a bargain, isn't it? It's not being streamed live as I know of at the moment. It might be recorded, but the only way to join me for that workshop is to get yourself to Nottingham in a very safe environment, and you can join me in the room. Pop over to the SAA's website for more information. And I can see that lovely Anita is in the chat. And yes, Anita, you and I are going to catch up next week. Now, if you want the link to all the things that I've been using today, I want to show you the website so that you know where to go and find these things. Bear with me, don't disappear on me, because you'll be able to see where you need to look for these things. So you need to go to the Learning to Paint website. So that's www.learningtopaint.co.uk. And you need to, this might look a little bit different if you are on a tablet or on a phone. But in the top right hand corner, can you see there's a shopping trolley cart, and next to that, if you're looking at this on a tablet or a phone, you'll see a couple of lines. Just tap on it, and the bit that you want is the free resources. Click or tap on that, and there you can see Technique Tuesday. That takes you straight over to the blog, and there we have today's blog post all ready for you. So you click on read more, or you tap on read more, and there you will see a little bit of writing. You can't see the video yet because I'm live filming it. And there we go. Down there you've got links to the canvas block, the watercolor ground, the gesso, the stencils, the letter stamps, and the mirror tiles. There are also links there to the bee and foxglove workshop and the Field of Gold workshop. So hopefully that will give you all the information that you need to be able to experiment with your own type of project, to join me for that Bee and Foxglove, or if you're really, really lucky indeed, then I will get to see you face to face in Nottingham next Friday. I'm so looking forward to getting back to working in person with the SAA. You know that I'm always very honoured to be working with them, so it will be fabulous. Now, I can see that Dr. Jones is in the room as well and is telling me to wash my hands because they're an absolute mess. Dr. Jones, you're not wrong. They are covered in paint, so that's what I'm off to do now. So like I said, my apologies next week that there's no Technique Tuesday, but I will be back in 2 weeks time. Keep your eye on the Facebook page or on my website and you'll get to see them there soon. Thank you ever so much for everybody that joined me live. If you're watching on catch up via the blog or via YouTube, thank you very much for tuning in. If you have any comments or questions or anything at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch. It's always lovely to hear from all of you. So until I see you live or in person, please take lots of care, won't you? Sending you lots of love, sending love to all my elbow friends as well. The last 10 days has been an absolute blast, a source of huge amounts of inspiration. And so I hope that inspiration has passed on to all of you. Take care, everybody, and I will catch up with you very soon. Bye, everyone.